So Pridhvi, what inspired you to create EcoDentSol?
So my inspiration for EcoDentSol really started with my experience as a dental intern. So for the past 2 years, I've been working as a dental intern at Make-A-Thon Orthodontics, which is an orthodontic clinic in Clayton, North Carolina. And in my capacity as a dental intern, I've really got to see the ins and outs of managing a dental clinic and understanding supply chain and things of that nature, right? So in a year like this, where our healthcare system has been so stressed and pushed to the limits, I noticed a small inefficiency in the work that we were doing at the orthodontic clinic in creating plastic waste. And if we look at the number of companies this year that are generating an enormous amount of PPE to protect the frontline workers, I think a question that often gets kind of overlooked is what's happening to that PPE after it's used. And obviously it's biohazardous material, and some of it isn't, like the packaging. So, Procter & Gamble and 3M, these manufacturing companies are producing an enormous amount of plastic waste or boxes for gloves and things of that nature, and it gets thrown into our environment. So my goal with EcoDentSol and my inspiration was, how can I take a year like this, know that there's so much trash being put into the world, and reduce it, but also ensure that we're not compromising the well-being of patient care.
How has EcoDentSol changed from when you became a Miller Fellow to right now?
It's changed so much, right? Like at the very beginning of the Miller Fellowship, EcoDentSol didn't exist. It wasn't even a thing. It was just an idea. Like I said, I noticed an inefficiency in our work with something called power chain, which is this elastic material that orthodontists use to close gaps between teeth. And I just noticed that a lot of it was being thrown away. So, I pitched this idea to Dr. Miller and Jennifer about how this machine that I'm building could reduce the amount of plastic waste that is being generated. So it was just an idea, and now, my friend and I are in the kind of trenches and building out our first prototype that can actually be delivered, that we're hoping to deliver to the orthodontic clinic within the next month or two.
How has the Miller Fellows program helped you grow as an entrepreneurial thinker?
It's crazy because I think when I first started the Miller Fellowship, I had very little to, I want to say no experience in entrepreneurship. This was really my first kind of venture that I started. It's funny because I didn't even know what an MVP was when I first started with the Miller Fellows. I remember one of the other fellows telling me, Pridhvi, you got to start with an MVP. That's how you're going to kick off this venture. And I was like, what's an MVP? I play soccer. I know what an MVP is there on the soccer field, but she's like, no, you got to, it's a minimum viable product. You need to make something that'll get you into the market as soon as possible. So it's just being around a community of amazing thinkers, people who have had a ton of experience in the industry that have helped me grow as an entrepreneurial thinker. I've learned so much that I don't think I would have learned just in a classroom. It's really about sticking to the NC State motto of think and do, and really the important part there is to do. Like, don't just think all the time. You gotta at some point you gotta know when to start making a change and doing.
So what does your future and the future of EcoDentSol look like?
My future for the next, 5 to 10 years is to really focus on creating a future for myself in the field of dentistry. I'm currently applying to dental schools and hoping to become a dentist. And that's kind of my primary goal. I'd love to be a business owner one day by owning a private clinic, but that being said, some of my goals for EcoDentSol are to really supplement my experience as a dentist. So, or maybe even vice versa, right? So my experience as a dentist allows me to learn about the inner workings of the dental industry. There's a ton of innovation going on in the dental world with CAD/CAM technology, with intraoral scanners, and there's so much movement, but there's also a lot of areas that lack innovation. If you just look at toothbrush design, I think that's like the funniest thing. It's been around for centuries, and no one has really, innovated the way a toothbrush works or the design of a toothbrush. So my goal is to really learn about the ins and outs of dentistry as a profession, and understand the needs of patients and that way I'll be able to use EcoDentSol to deliver on those needs, but also, focusing on making sure that there's no environmental implications to the work that we're doing.
What's the most impactful thing that you've learned during the Miller Fellows program?
I'm gonna have to recall a story that Dr. Miller actually shared during my interview with the Miller Fellowship as the most impactful thing. Dr. Miller, when I asked him about some of the expectations that he had for me as an entrepreneurial thinker and a business owner, he responded with a story about his friend who was a general dentist who identified a problem in the way that dentures were delivered to patients and customized solutions for each patient so that they were more affordable and the success rate of the dentures was higher. And he kind of encouraged me to be a dentist who does similar work, someone who really caters to the needs of individual people, identify, what problem exists, and then customize my solution to that need. I think, recently I just read a book called The Icarus Deception, fantastic book that I totally recommend that everyone should read. But the whole premises of that book was about how art and innovation is something that's dying in our current society. It's something that the Industrial Revolution has taken over, and how our economy really focuses on mass production. How do we cater to this bell curve? And the successful companies are the ones that really push their products to the most amount of people. But what Dr. Miller kind of reiterated, and what the book really talked about, is how value comes from customization. There's a ton of value in being able to address each person's need. And I think that's something that's really important in healthcare, because every patient is different. And so it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. So with my goal with becoming a dentist, but also with EcoDentSol, is to really cater to individual solutions. And I don't think I would have had that thought if it wasn't for that amazing story that Dr. Miller shared with me.